And what's up? It's Icy, and we're back for our first one. So I guess we're here for our first one. Well, if you don't count, that reaction video, that was fucking terrible fucking quality. But anyways, the question of the day: should J. Cole be in the big three? And I really didn't have much to say. Then I saw someone say, we should kick J. Cole out and add Big Sean. And I really thought that was it. I thought that was the worst thing I've it had like 10, 20, 30K retweets. It was the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Future's last album review dropping soon. You saw or you see that at the end or right at the beginning of this too, it's a clip of Charlemagne saying, yo, Future is really part of the big three, and he's not three and he's not two. He could even be one because no one's been more influential than Future. I'm not gonna discredit that or take that away from Future, but again, I feel like that's really what's ramping me up to make this video, where I feel like there needs to be a little bit more sophisticated discourse on what the big three actually means that I don't see anyone having. I don't see nobody talking about this the way they should really be talking about this, and it's not that hard. It's not that complicated. When you see people like artists getting it wrong, right? When you see Charlemagne the God getting it wrong, right? When you have like Joe Budden fucking getting it wrong, they're starting to spread misinformation about what the point of this is, and they're supposed to be the hip hop OGs. If the hip hop OGs aren't doing it, shit, I'm gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? People are at that point where they really have to sit back and think, is J. Cole really part of the big three? I feel like people don't understand the reason why we consider Drake, Kendrick, and J. Cole part of the big three. It has absolutely nothing to do with the competition between the three of them, more so how they defined an era, right? And we use this big three analogy in so many different ways and so many different mediums that I feel like there are always people who just don't get why you consider something a big three. So then that begs the question, why do we consider J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and Drake to be the big three in hip hop? What exactly is it about those three artists that make everyone say, oh yeah, that's it, it's them, and then everyone else somewhere else, right? Especially when you have huge artists, right? Like Kanye West, right? You have Travis Scott. Yeah, when they were coming up, when the big three notion first started, Lil Wayne was still around, right? Lil Wayne was still making. He just got out of that whole Birdman situation when Drake dropped If You're Reading This Is Too Late. So still a big name in the rap game. In order to discover whether or not J. Cole really is part of the big three, what the validity behind these claims and these takes are, you really have to look back and figure out why we consider these three to be the big three in the first place. The first thing we have to do is take it back all the way to 2011, right? When all three of these artists, J. Cole, Drake, and Kendrick, were coming up at the same time. In 2011, Drake drops Take Care. It's the same year J. Cole drops Cole World, The Sideline Story. The same year, you have Kendrick Lamar dropping Section 80. Two solid projects, from J. Cole and Kendrick, and a banger for project from Drake and Take Care, which some people still say to this day is his greatest work. Now, granted, J. Cole's project was probably his worst project as far as hip hop goes. He really sold a lot of his sound off in order to make that album. If you look back towards J. Cole's earlier work was Friday Night Lights. Like, Friday Night Lights is a 10 out of 10 project, mixtape, right? Considering he was a young up-and-coming artist. I still go back and listen to it right now. A lot of people do, just because it really was a refined piece of work, and it was J. Cole really just locked in making the type of music he wanted to make, right? So when he dropped that album, when he dropped the Cole World Sideline Story, it just didn't hit the same. It wasn't it was a lot of mainstream music. So between the three of those people, J. Cole, Kendrick, and Drake, hip hop wise, J. Cole was probably in last. Mainstream wise, J. Cole was definitely more popular than Kendrick Lamar was at that point in time. Now, the reason why it's important that all this came out in 2011 is because you need to understand you have these three rappers, Kendrick, J. Cole, Drake, all dropping projects, all starting to come into hip hop at the exact same time. Very similar to how in 2016 you had that 21 Savage, Kodak Black, Denzel Curry, Lil Yachty. Who else was in that XXL video freestyle? Lil Uzi. I don't know how I forgot about Lil Uzi, but Lil Uzi. Same way you had all those people breaking in at the same time. It ended up becoming like it was a breakout year for hip hop, and it was a breakout kind of couple years for hip hop, right? Because you have these people hungry and eating. Now imagine that same thing, that same mesh, except in 2011 instead of 2016. Like, it seems like they're always dropping projects and bangers and projects and bangers. Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick were defining the new generation of hip-hop, not a hip-hop subset like you have 21 Savage, Young Thug, Future. Like, are they rappers? 100%. But are they your traditional rappers? Like, not necessarily, right? Not that old school hip hop exists in the same way it does anymore, and it never will. And that's okay. Things are meant to evolve and grow. That's just the course of things, right? But the natural progression from old school was a Kendrick Lamar, was a J. Cole, and was a Drake in his earlier years when he wasn't entirely focused on his pop side and was more so trying to prove that, you know, he could stand up there with the best of them and he can go ahead and make really good solid hip hop rapping projects, right? In a 6-year period, we got Born Sinner, 2014 Forest Hill Drives, Good Kid, Mad City, To Pimp a Butterfly, Take Care, Nothing Was the Same. From 2011 to 2015, we got 6 historical albums from these 3 people. It was like you never got a break. It's like every single time you would get over one person dropping an album, boom, one of these guys doing something else, boom, another one doing something else, boom, another one doing something else. It was a crazy time to be a hip hop fan. It was a really fun time, right? Everything, there was always new content, there was always new music. Media hasn't been redefined yet, right? So you still have the MTVs, you still have older people in control, and you didn't have, you know, the Twitch stars in control. Hip hop was deep, and the natural progression from what we saw before was these 3 artists. You have a Drake taking heavy inspiration from Kanye. Early Drake took a heavy inspiration from Kanye. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You have an early Kendrick Lamar, not necessarily taking a direct influence from a Dr. Dre, from a Snoop Dogg, from a Tupac, as far as his sound goes, more so taking that inspiration for what the content of his music contains. Super deep, super meaningful, still is, will always be. He's now starting to sound like more of a West Coast rapper as he ages. But starting off, he didn't necessarily sound like he took a sound from a Dr. Dre or a Snoop Dogg. Then you have a J. Cole who, and I might catch shit for this, but took a lot of inspiration from Nas, right? That's why he got so upset on Let Nas Down on Born Sinner when Nas hit him up and was upset with what he put out for Cold World, when Jay-Z told him, yo, we need to make this mainstream, otherwise we're not putting this out. Specifically, he was talking about Worked Out, right? In general, if you listen to J. Cole's first album, like he had some movie track songs on there, you know, whatever. So you have all of these albums coming out within that 2011 2015 period, and it's not like they stopped. It's not like they just stopped dropping music. They kept eating. They kept dropping more tracks. I didn't even talk about, if you're reading this, Too Late from Drake, right? Kendrick, as we know, doesn't drop music too often, but he dropped the best hip hop album of all time, or at least one of them, was To Pimp a Butterfly. I still can't believe J. Cole decided to diss To Pimp a fucking Butterfly. Oh my god. But anyways, yeah, J. Cole decided to. Oh my god, that shit is still fucking me up. This man J. Cole really, like, that was the angle. That was the angle he took. I'm not getting over that anytime soon. Oh my god, Jesus. Anyways, Kendrick dropped one of the best albums of all time with To Pimp a Butterfly. A lot of people say it was overrated. I understand what they mean. But it really comes down to how you value your music, and I value the message and the meaning a lot higher than an other person probably would, right? And that's just because I don't necessarily think rapping is the hardest fucking thing in the world. Like, I think creating a good sound is. I think there are a lot of aspects to rap that are hard, but I think it's all plot. I think the only thing that separates one rapper from the next is their experience and how they translate it to the page. That's just me. That doesn't have to be you, and that's not the point of this conversation anyways. And then you had J. Cole dropping 2014 Forest Still Drives, the year prior, before Kendrick dropped To Pimp a Butterfly, and 2014 Forest Still Drives platinum with no features. I'm just saying. That ended up becoming such a fucking meme. That ended up becoming a hell of a fucking meme that people ended up downplaying it, especially when J. Cole did the same thing on his next two projects, especially when you have Lil Uzi coming out a couple years later doing the same thing. You had Bryson Tiller coming out and doing the exact same thing. You had a lot of people starting to come out having that project platinum with no features under their belt, and it really kind of diminished, what J. Cole had done. But it was amazing, right? It still was a very historical moment. Drake, J. Cole, and Kendrick, whether people want to admit it or not, they defined how music was going to be moving forward. J. Cole, when he had that platinum album with no features, he influenced people to, hey, we don't need as many features on our album. He pushed that creative envelope, really helped motivate a generation. And it's kind of like one of those things where, basketball players get better over time. If people jump higher, people recover from injuries sooner. That's just the way it goes. J. Cole happened to be the first person to set that standard in hip hop, and there are people after it now setting that standard as well. When we're analyzing artists from a different time period, from different years, and it has been 10 fucking years since this album dropped now, so we have to really look at it as a different time period, because it was, damn, 10 years ago. I am fucking old. Anyways, you have to look at it for what it is, and it's a different time. People who listen to hip hop now, a lot of them would have grown up during that time. A lot of them wouldn't have now. We're getting to that period of time. We have a new audience. We have to explain some of these things a little bit more in depth, right? For people getting into hip hop. We have a lot more hip hop fans now than we did back then. Great thing. Love it for the genre. But yeah, so that was J. Cole's piece, right? J. Cole added that piece, that legacy. Kendrick is, I don't really need to talk about Kendrick, right? And I don't really think I need to talk about Drake here either, because we all know Drake is that pop, hip hop, like, superstar sensation in hip hop. I don't need to explain the significance of Drake and his music or Kendrick and his music, but I do feel like I need to explain the significance of J. Cole and his music, just because it really goes unnoticed. The big three, responsible for conjoining two different periods in hip hop: old school hip hop and what we currently have nowadays, right? And of course, you have other artists in that period of time that bridged a similar gap, had similar challenges, had similar, evolving sounds, but none of them were as big as these three, right? And that's really what makes a difference. It's the size, the stature, the influence that they had in mainstream hip hop, and the way hip hop is gonna continue to be developed and perceived over a period of time. So with that answer, we go back to the first question. Is Jermaine part of the big three? I say yes. For me, I don't think J. Cole will ever not be a part of the big three, because it doesn't make sense to take him out of the big three. The big three was never about the best rappers, right? The big three was never about just the idea of having three huge inspirational figures in hip hop at the same time, right? Like, no one coined the term big three before they existed nor after, right? Like, there is no quote unquote big three. You hear big three in hip hop, you know who people are referring to. So the question is, why do we attach things like beef and competition, competitiveness to big three? Why is it so possible to remove someone that had that level of influence for that long period of time? And it's just not, right? It's just not. It's just people. I understand being disappointed with J. Cole apologizing to Kendrick. I do. That deserves a whole video in itself, right? It goes against a lot of the bars J. Cole has had, the braggadocious, as people have been saying, because they think they know fucking big words nowadays. Bold, the "you won't fuck with me" bars J. Cole has had over the years. It just kind of fucks with that image on paper, right? Or I guess not on paper, but I guess for just the outside person looking in who doesn't really know much about it. Me, personally, I don't necessarily care that J. Cole apologized. Reason being, him and Kendrick are cool. I know where this beef's gonna go. I've known where this beef's gonna go. This shit's gonna get dirty. This shit's gonna get messy. J. Cole is a person who, at the beginning of the video, like I was mentioning, this ties back into it, helped Dr. Dre discover Kendrick. He told Dre about Kendrick. Kendrick then pulls up to, I believe, J-Rock's show, and then Dr. Dre pulled up to his show, and that's how they met. So really, Kendrick has J. Cole and Jay Electronica to thank for being put on with Dr. Dre, right? All of that, you know what I'm saying? You are responsible for building this man up. P. Diddy, back in 2013, when Kendrick dropped the Control verse, threw a drink on him in the club for talking shit about, or not, I guess not talking shit, but like putting himself up there in terms of the stature of New York greats. And you have that person, and J. Cole fought him for that. So you're telling me you have a friend that you're willing to fight for, and you're gonna put him down. And not put him down just like, oh, hey, haha, I'm rapping at you, you're rapping at me. No, right? Friendly competition would be me going bar for bar on a track with you, me copying your tracks, me trying to outperform you, not rap you. That's what competitive rap, that's what friendly competition is. Friendly competition is not, yo, your album is shit, your discovery is shit, everything you've done is shit. To fucking come after To Pimp a Butterfly, and the fact that motherfuckers took that shit seriously is asinine. It makes no sense, right? I was seeing takes all over Twitter. Man, yeah, fucking To Pimp a Butterfly is bad. Like, come on, bro. J. Cole knew that was a miss. Everyone in the goddamn world knew that was a miss. Everyone's. That is literally one of the best hip hop projects of all time. I like, you know what I'm saying? And J. Cole didn't believe that. J. Cole's too much of a hip hop historian. You know, he loves this shit. He loves the game. I'm sure he loves that project more than most people do, right? And he probably he probably appreciates it more than most people do as well. So, really, why J. Cole apologized to Kendrick? That's his friend. That's his friend. Kanye really recently came out with "Play J. Cole, make it your girl's pussy dry," whatever he said. Fucking Kanye. But that's neither here nor there, right? J. Cole will come at Kanye. He has with False Prophets. He'll come at whoever. It's just Kendrick. Right, so you really want to be like, yo, you wouldn't come at your friend, someone that you idolize, someone that you hold at high esteem, someone you want to work with in the future and have a relationship with in the future, someone whose work you don't want to diminish for a bunch of reasons, right? And you guys want to chastise him for that. Like, that's cool. Like, I get it. I'm disappointed too, but like, realistically speaking, where else could this go? You know, it's either you're in it or you're out. There is no half-assing it. He tried half-assing it. It still came. The message. It was a shitty track. He didn't feel good about it. I didn't feel good about it. Right? His fans hated that shit because it wasn't a good track. He came at him for terrible points. Right? He tried to half-ass it. He tried that middle lane. It didn't work. You're either in or out when you're trying to go back and forth with diss tracks. Like, look at Chris Brown. That man went all the way in. Them boys are going in. So the question is, would you rather have J. Cole in, or would you rather have him out? And I'd rather have him out. If J. Cole was the type of rapper to come at a friend like this, if J. Cole was that type of individual to really take, bars that weren't even really meant for him and let the public influence him into doing something that's out of character, because just as many braggadocious bars as he has just as many bars where he's saying he doesn't seek out beef for no reason. He doesn't seek out beef just to get streams, just to get his numbers up. He doesn't do that. So, either way, it's a double-edged sword. You're breaking one of your images. You have two images, and they happen to conflate, and they happen to contradict each other in this particular scenario. So you have to pick one. You have to portray one image, and he chose to portray the image that he will come at anyone who comes at him, because the truth is he won't. He will not come at friends who come at him. I respect him for holding true to that, because that really is more so what's in line with the music I like from J. Cole. The no role models, right? 2014 Forest Hills Rise, the humble persona he has, right? It's not just a persona, the humble individual he is. So that's just a quick, couple of bars about how I feel about his apology. I can make a whole video about his relationship with Kendrick Lamar and why people have, kind of, drawn that out. But I feel like that's more so a video for a future date. If this actually withstands the test of time, which I don't think it will. People are already saying, yeah, we get it. Because after fucking Drake used the Tupac AI, insanity. So I ended up defending J. Cole a little bit at the end there. Wasn't really my intention, because at the end of the day, I do like J. Cole and I do see his perspective, but I want you guys to go ahead and kind of judge for yourselves. That's what I found my answer to be, based on what I believe the big three to be. I'm a J. Cole fan. I'm a Kendrick fan. I'm a Drake fan. I grew up in that time. They were the main artists that I was listening to, that most people were listening to. They got me into hip hop in an extremely serious sense, where I started to go back through, artists that inspired them. I went from Kendrick to Dr. Dre to Snoop Dogg to Tupac, which led me to Biggie. Then, with J. Cole, I really took inspiration to Nas. Then I started listening to Jay-Z. Then with Drake, I really started listening to Kanye West more. These artists really bridge that gap. They really get you into an older medium and get you into that newer medium. You guys are gonna think what you want to think, believe what you want to believe. there are a lot of things that go into this. What do you think hip hop's a sport? Do you think it's competition? Do you think J. Cole was right for apologizing to Kendrick? Do you think he was wrong for it? You're gonna have your opinions on all of that. All of those deserve their own video. You know, they all deserve that's a whole different topic, right? Different opinions. To me, there's a single definition why the big three is the big three. This is why the big three is the big three, and it can never be changed. Even when J. Cole retires, even when Kendrick eventually retires, even when Drake eventually retires, when you think big three in hip hop, you think about those three. Because let's be honest, if J. Cole, Kendrick, and Drake were to retire today, tell me, what is hip hop? And that is exactly why they are the big three. Now that we got that out the way, you know, you should really click on the video. You know, I don't think there's anything up there yet. You know, it's kind of new. You feel me? It's my first one, so I'm not really seeing anything there yet. But if there's something there because you're watching this after I posted my other two, you know, click on it. Boom.